Hello everyone, and welcome back. Today we're going to take a look at the Corrosive Sludge Pump. This and the other weapon showcases will be my last videos before the update goes live, so once it does, expect to see some more deep analysis and concrete stuff now that the numbers will be final. But without further ado, let's get right into the video. Alright. So this build that I pieced together is kind of a half build. It's all about the goo and spreading effects on the goo and buffing it up. So it's not as effective as it could be if I had, say, like impact axes or thin containment field or something, but this puts the most possible focus on the goo gun itself and synergies that go with it. So it's a very ammo efficient weapon if you're willing to wait for the corrosive dot to tick. So that was 2 of my 150 ammo that I just expended to kill that spitballer, which is pretty much the best you can do in the game, barring critical weakness. So that's nothing to shake a stick at. Well, I guess autocannon with neurotoxin payload can contend with it, but this has quite a few more applications. Excuse me, 125 ammo with this build. It's possible to get 150 max ammo if you take the increased mag size. I do hear a lot of ambient bugs. These tight tunnels are going to work in our favor as well. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to splatter that across the floor. Just let them walk right into it. And also, if I wing a flying nightmare shot through, that sets the goo on fire. Which is just a double whammy for these guys. They really are not having a good time. So you can imagine if you had a gunner with burning hell or engineer with incendiary RJ to help you burn this stuff, you could be bringing flying nightmare, or excuse me, you could be bringing thin containment field or Sabata or just, you know, anything else. So it is a little tricky to hit Mactero with charged shot fragments in my experience. Probably just because I'm not too proficient at using the weapon yet, but Bosco isn't helping with this example. Also, you can melt exploders with the goo puddle. I actually killed him with the impact damage there, so not a good example, but let's pull this egg, see if we can get some more bugs to come say hey. There we go. This is a very, very ammo efficient weapon though. You can go pretty much the entire duration of a mission like this without having to resupply. Gets a little tight near the end, just because that's how things are, but it's very thrifty if you're willing to play around the puddles like this. So if you were a Sticky Flames enjoyer before this update, I can see you definitely gravitating towards this weapon, because it's basically Sticky Flames expanded upon. It also has direct damage builds and charge shot impact builds, but overall I think this is where the weapon shines the brightest. Is just complete area denial in situations like this. And it would obviously be a bit more effective if I just bunkered into the wall and led them all in that way, but that's kind of lame, so. It's also clearly viable out in the open like this. Also, the goo does not do any damage or slow you down. So the fact that I'm strafing around the edges of it is purely just trying to keep the enemies in the middle. I'm not actually going to get hit by it. So, I'm going to fall back a little bit here. Oops. Any more? Is that it? There's some more. I don't even need that. Why am I bothering? Okay, that's it. Here's the exploders melting in the goo for you. So if they die, if their last hit is to corrosive, the corrosive damage, it will just melt them away. So there's that. A few more. There is, that's a good example of that, there is splash damage on the charge shot, so you gotta be a little bit careful about shooting yourself in the feet. It's not very significant at all, so unless you're on extremely low health like that, you don't need to worry. And I believe there is splash on the normal shot as well. No, just the charge shot. So there you go, you can see it's about a quarter of my shield, so had I not been extremely low on health there, I would have been fine. Yeah, we'll wing this in there, make it into a burning mess. It does not seem like the fire actually spreads through the goo, which is a little unfortunate, but I can imagine that would be difficult to know exactly how close is close enough. So there you go, that was a Has-5 egg swarm. And that was, what, about half of our ammo? A little over half of our ammo in our primary. And keep in mind, I'm not using satchels, I'm not using grenades, I'm not using anything. That was basically all just leaning on the goo and very slightly on setting the goo on fire with Flying Nightmare. So, if you're all about ammo efficiency, this might just be the best build for you. And it's infinitely scalable. So, there could have been 10 grunts or 100 grunts running through that goo puddle at me, and they all would have got melted just the same. So overall, at least this build, I haven't played too much with the other ones yet, so I can't speak to those. I know the Goo Bomber special was broken for a little while, and that it was doing way too much direct damage, and like one cycling dreadnoughts basically. But this is the mobbing build for this weapon for sure. It is pretty vicious. That's 4 ammo right there, by the way. Only 4. And if you really want to double dip on them, you can stick them directly as well. It is the hardest CC you can get. Let's try to stack up these other eggs. There I go again, shooting myself in the feet. Oh, whoops. Sorry, buddy. The direct damage is pretty good on the direct shots, but it's not really good enough to warrant shooting them directly unless you spec into that. You can see bugs coming. We'll just lay down our little trap. And we'll throw down a neurotoxin this time for good measure. One thing to note is the burning goo does not det your neurotoxin, so you can actually stack up all the debuffs like this. And this is actually enough to dead stop a bulk, so if a bulk walks into that situation right there, it actually will be completely unable to move until one of the effects falls off. Add electricity. Alternatively to neurotoxin, you can also add electricity from the engineer or something, or an IFG from a scout, and basically this gun combined with any other slow is enough to deadlock a lot of the big enemies in the game. Wish we had a bulk on this mission. Trying to summon it with my taunts. Oop. There is the last egg. I don't think I'm going to bother with gunk seeds here, just because it's in the experimental and this isn't going to be saved, so not too worried about XP. Wish we had some more bugs, though. And there we go. This will give us the best chance to fight more enemies, the escape sequence. So I feel like with a lot of drillers primaries, this weapon is going to suffer from ranged enemies. And also enemies that can get away from you, like this menace. So like I can stick him, yeah, but unless I lean on another weapon, it's really not enough to actually deal with him. The splash radius damage is pretty large on the goo cannon, so I'm going to be kind of careful where you shoot it. It's like a lot of angry coming from there. It's pretty hard to get it on the walls, in my experience. Like you saw there, most of it fell down, but when you have this many fragments, it's pretty doable. That was interesting. How did I manage that? Oh, it's just a visual bug. I thought I shot one out of the side. So here's a little bunkering example for you. Just melted that exploder right there. So as far as I can tell, the corrosive effect does not stack, it's just having it in more places applies it more easily. Even these Tri-Jaws, they can't swing it. They have no chance. Combine that with the burn from Flying Nightmare, throw some neurotoxin in there. It's like, as long as I'm able to sit here and maintain this, there's nothing really that's gonna get through here, barring the biggest enemies in the game. You can just see all the debuffs on these guys. They're even under the effects of a Warden right now, and they're still just not able to break through. It's an absolute monster. This really is the best place for this build as well, because it scatters so much that it's able to stick to every surface. Like, what's gonna get to me right now? Like, actually, what is gonna get to me? Oppressors, definitely. Dreadnoughts, bulk detonators, maybe Praetorians, but if you make this tunnel deep enough, probably not. Like, that's a pretty hard take for the bugs. I don't know, overall I'm really happy with the goo cannon. Like, this is one of the more vanilla builds for it. You can definitely do some crazy stuff with regular shots and goo bomber special, but I think this is basically the perfectly tuned cooler version of the goo cannon, if that makes any sense. This is just how it's run, basically, and then you can specialize it more with things like Ice Spear or Ice Storm. Meanwhile, this weapon will have goo bomber special or sludge shot. But yeah, it's beastly, honestly. It's really good. I know a lot of people weren't too interested in this weapon, didn't think it was going to pan out, but it's an absolute menace. It destroys. But yeah, probably the biggest underdog weapon in this update, and I'm super happy that it's really good. And that's all she wrote about the goo gun. I'm super happy this weapon turned out super effective and fun to play, because I know a lot of people were skeptical of how strong it was going to be. But, seems to be a real powerhouse. I will be streaming the update the day it goes live on November 4th, so if you'd like to catch that out, go check out my Twitch. Also, if you'd like to talk to me or any of my community members about the upcoming update, you can find us over on Discord. As always, thank you for watching, and have a nice day.